Welcome back to the Unreal DMX tutorial series. The series where we go over the basics. We build a simple scene, connect virtual lights to lighting software, and end up programming some striking looks. In this lesson, we're going to build a stage, assemble a truss structure, and place our first Unreal DMX fixtures. If this is the first video you found in the series, consider watching the previous lesson if you get stuck. We need an empty level to start from. Right-click in the content browser, level, give it a name. Let's call it My First Show, because it might be. Double-click to open it. It's completely dark. Perfect for lighting, not so great for setting up. To get some basic lighting going, go to Window, Environment Light Mixer. Spam click all the buttons to your heart's content to add the atmosphere, fog, and lights. You'll see them appear in the outliner. Let's organize them. Select all of them, right-click, move to Create Folder, name it ENV. ENV in this case is short for Environment. Open the Actors panel, Shapes, Plane, and drop it into the world. I prefer using the Quick Add button up here. Shapes, Plane. In the Details panel, reset its transform to 0 using the arrow icon, so it's centered. Press F to frame it. The environment objects are blocking the view, so select them in the outliner and move them below the plane. That's much better. Select the plane and set the X scale to 100 and the Y scale to 100 to create a 100 meter by 100 meter floor. Navigate to the DMX folder, Materials folder, and drag the floor material onto the plane. You may have noticed the exposure changing depending on what's on screen. Even a basic cube looks like it's glowing and creating lens flares. This is due to eye adaptation. Unreal adjusts exposure just like your eye. If the viewport is bright, it drops the exposure. And when the viewport is dark, it raises the exposure. For our purposes, this won't work well. We want the exposure to be constant so we have full control. To fix this, add a new post-process volume. You can search for it in the Quick Add button. With it selected, search for Exposure in the Details panel. Set the metering mode to manual and untick Apply Physical Camera Exposure. Set exposure and you might think it isn't working. You're damn right. The settings only apply while inside the volume. To fix this, search for Unbound. Check Infinite Extent Unbound. Now the settings apply globally. Let's set the exposure compensation to 1. The lens flare is still present. Next, search for lens flare and set the intensity to 0. You're welcome to tweak this to your liking. As nice as this view is, let's start making the scene, starting with the stage. Drag the same material we used on the floor onto the cube and set its scale to 1 on the x-axis, 2 on the y-axis, and 0.5 on the z-axis. This creates a 1 meter by 2 meter by 450 millimeter deck. It's clipping through the floor. If snapping makes it hard to position, disable snapping temporarily. You can also lift the object and press End to drop it directly onto the surface below. Re-enable snapping when you're done. Instead of building every deck from scratch, hold Alt and drag to duplicate. Remember this technique, it's a massive time saver. Place more duplicates to build a 6 meter by 3 meter stage. The post-process volume is blocking the view and getting on my nerves. Drag it under the floor so it's out of the way. Bring in the truss, curtain and corner blocks from the previous lesson. Place them off to the side to create a small asset zoo. Use the Alt-Drag duplication technique to build your ground support. Here's another pro tip. Hold Shift while dragging to follow the object as it moves. Press E for rotational gizmos. Rotational snapping is enabled here, which is useful for modular building. Press W for translation gizmos. Place your vertical truss, lift it above the floor, press N to snap it to the floor. Duplicate another truss for the opposite side. You can use the Alt duplication technique on the rotational gizmo too. Now, we start building the horizontal truss. Check measurements and alignments as you go. Grab a corner block from the asset zoo and place it on top. Snapping might get in the way, so disable it for fine alignment. Do the same with the opposite side. Extend the truss to the sides of the stage as needed. Use a smaller truss section at the front so it doesn't protrude too far. Attach the curtain. Line it up with the back of the truss. We're keeping the front vane free for the lights. We still need a platform for the DJ. let's reuse one of the stage decks. Duplicate one and set its Z-scale to 0.9, which is 900 millimeters, and press N to snap it to the top of the deck below. Stage done. If you find this helpful, consider liking and subscribing as it helps me understand what content to make next. Let's populate the rig. Place 4 static heads to uplight the curtain. I like to place these by eye. Slight imperfections add character. Next, place 3 moving heads per side in the gaps near the back of the truss. The setup is ideal for beam and gobo work. I'm using the smaller vanes of the truss to figure out the spacing. Mirror this setup to the other side. Rotate the lights by 180 degrees so they face inward. If you rotate multiple lights at once, Unreal uses the pivot of the last selected object. That's not what we want. Instead, type 180 directly into the details panel and each light will rotate individually. Oops, the lights are facing the wrong way because the fans are supposed to be facing inward. Undo and let's fix this. Let's rotate this end by 180 degrees. Finally, let's add the LED wash fixtures. I'll duplicate these outer positions for the front light. Let's adjust placement slightly towards the center of the truss. Hit Save All. Boom! Stage and truss assembled. Let's recap. We added basic lighting with the environment light mixer, locked exposure with the post-process volume, placed and manipulated assets, and populated the rig with DMX fixtures. In the next lesson, we'll install and patch the GrandMA Dot2 lighting software to prepare control for our virtual fixtures.